Shalom, Israel. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashem Mashak Umlaki Washai. That is to say, Yahweh being named the Heavenly Father, who the world will call God, and Yahweh Shai being named His only begotten Son, who the world arrogantly calls Jesus Christ. This brother Kasadia from WFR Jersey, Philly, and we tackling one of these visions of Zechariah, the four horns and the four carpenters breakdown. Now, Salakia, you bear with me. You know, I'm still coming over this sickness, but through the Spirit, we're going to tackle it. You know, Lord willing, it leaves every question you may have of it and a breakdown thereof. We're going to, you know, discuss it and go over it. We're going to kick it off with the book of Zechariah, the first chapter, and we can start at verse 18. All right. So this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 1, and I'm going to read verse 18. It says, and this breakdown, it could be, it's not too deep, but for some, it may be, you know, you may have a hard time, you know, trying to get the understanding thereof. So Lord willing, we make it plain upon tables, right? Because the Lord said that right in the book of Habakkuk, right? It's Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 2. And Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. It's like it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. So there's breakdowns that the prophets, they may have written it down, but the Lord at a different time would make it now plain upon the tables, so that when we read it now, we can understand. We get the understanding of it. So something like Zechariah and these four horns of four carpenters, it may not have been completely revealed to Zechariah during that time, but in 2023 AD, and we can reveal those things upon the tables. So this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 1, and verse number 18. Then lifted I up my head, Sakia, mine eyes, and saw, behold, four horns. Right, so Zechariah, you know, he's seeing his, this is a vision. And he's seeing four different horns. We're going to go into what those four horns mean. But continuing on, and I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And the Lord showed me four carpenters. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these, meaning these carpenters, but these are come to fray them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horns over the land of Judah to scatter it. And that's the whole vision. Now, through the Spirit and power of Hashem Yashai, we're going to go back over this, and we won't get the understanding thereof. Right? This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 1 and verse 18. It's like it. Zechariah chapter 1 verse 18. Then lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, four horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So these four horns represent four different powers that would, meaning kingdoms, that would come and that's going to scatter Israel into captivity. Now, these four major captivities, or four kingdoms, is really going into four major captivities that put us, you know, spread us out from being in the land of Israel. Over time, at the end of these four powers, Israel is going to be, you know, for the most part, scattered. It said Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem, meaning the Judites from the tribe of Judah, the rest of the 12 tribes of Israel, and those that dwelt at Benjamin. It's like those that dwelt at Jerusalem, like Benjamin and Levi. So these horns, and real quick, a horn is a nation, right? Horns represent a power, so to speak. Let's go to the book of Joel, right? Let's show you that real quick. So these horns, they represent four different nations. And I'm going to show you that. This is Joel chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 1. Joel chapter 3 verse 1. It says, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for the inheritance. It's like, and for my inheritance, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. So this is talking about the nations. These horns is talking about nations that's taking Israel, taking those that dwell in Jerusalem, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and has scattered them. Now the Lord is going to bring them, all those nations that done this, they're all going to be brought into the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, meaning what? World War III. They're going to be brought over to that part of the world, and that's where the major battle is going to go down at, over in the land of Israel chiefly, and the eastern border thereof. So the Lord is showing, okay, this is a parallel to what we just read in the book of Zechariah, the first chapter, the 19th verse on down. Let's get another precept on these four horns. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse 17. Jeremiah 50 and 17. Israel is a scattered sheep, that lions have driven them away. First, the king of Assyria had devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had broken his bones. So we've been scattered. Remember, our first captivity was the Egyptian captivity. We came out of Egyptian captivity roughly around 1447 BC, right? Following that, we went into minor captivities when you read the book of Judges, but nevertheless, we had a kingdom set up. We had Saul being the first king. You had David. You had Solomon. And then you have a kingdom being split. Southern kingdom, northern kingdom. Northern kingdom went in captivity in 722 BC. Right? Go fact check that. 722 BC up until the year 720 BC. Now, Salakia. Now, you have all the way up until 605 BC. That's where in the Assyrians, the Assyrian captivity, that took the northern tribes in captivity, if I didn't mention that already. But the Babylonian captivity, 605 BC, that chiefly took those that was dwelling in Jerusalem, right? Took those of Judah, took the young men first in 605 BC, came back for the princes and chief men in 597 BC, and then burned up all of Jerusalem in 586 BC, chiefly the temple. Now that took place chiefly to those of Judah and Jerusalem. So when we're reading this account of these four horns that's going to come and they're going to scatter Israel, it's talking about this right here. It's talking about these different nations that came amongst us or against us, right? Let's get another precept on this. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 25. It says, Yahweh shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. So these horns is specifically going into nations. Now, other times we read in the scriptures, horns, they represent a strength. I mentioned that earlier. I'm going to get some precepts on it. Horns represent strength. These aren't, let me get a precept, right? These aren't literal 4 different horns, like a bull's horn or a ram's horn that's coming and that's going to scatter Israel, right? Nor is the letter 4 literal neither, but we're going to go into that. I'm going to get some precepts now on horn being strength, because I try to make it plain at first that these 4 horns is really talking about 4 different nations. Well, a number of nations. I should say it like that. A number of nations. Now, horn, like I'm about to go into right now, is normally talking about strength. So this is the book of Psalm, chapter 75, and I'm going to get verse 4. It says, I said unto the fools, deal not foolishly, and to the wicked, lift not up the horn. Lift not up your horn on high, speak not with a stiff neck. Because when you lift your horn up on high, meaning what? You're exalting yourself. It's your strength. When a ram wants to go attack its, whatever has to, attack a person or attack another animal, it's going to do what? It's going to lift up its horns and it's going to go ram you in. Bull, the same thing. That's their strength. That's their power. Rhinoceros, same thing. Rhinoceros is not going to damn throw a jab at you or kick you. Chiefly, they don't really do that. But it would do what? It would lift up his head because his horn is his strength. You understand? And that really should be plain. But we can get some more precepts on that. Let's go to the book of Lamentations. I have some written down. This is Lamentations chapter 2 and verse 17. It says, Yahweh had done that which he had devised. He fulfilled his word, that which he had commanded. In the days of old, he had thrown down and had not pitied. He had caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee. He had set up the horn of thine adversaries. So the Lord did what? When we went off against the Lord, he lifted up the horn of the adversaries over us. Then they became strong over us. They did whatever they wanted to do to us. They're destroying us. They put drugs in our community. They put guns in our communities. They locked us all up in prison. They split us up based off of colors, red and blue. These things are happening right now. That's their horn being lifted up over the children of Israel. You understand? Let's get another precept. Let's go to Daniel, the 8th chapter. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 8. And I'm going to get verse 6. Daniel, chapter 8. I'll start at verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west. It's like it. It's like it. I'm going to read it again. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And if you're a scholar, or if you study the scriptures, you know this is not an actual goat. This he-goat is symbolic of the Grecian Empire. And that horn, that notable horn between his eyes, is symbolic of Alexander the Great. This specifically links up when you read the book of 1 Maccabees, the first chapter, the first verse, on down to about 10, about 8. So reading on. And he came to the ram that had two horns. This ram that it's talking about is the Medo-Persian Empire. These two horns are symbolic of the Medes and the Persians. Reading on. Which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. So this he-goat ran into this ram. And what happened? We know in the year 538 BC, like 338, roughly 338, 334 BC, you have the Medo-Persian Empire overcame by who? Alexander the Great, right? And his rulership really started around 331 BC. Continuing on. He came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was removed with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power. These rams represent a power. It's like these horns represent power. What is a rhinoceros with no horn? What is a ram with no horn? What is a goat without the horns? Right? Continuing on. To stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Reading on. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn, Alexander the Great, was broken. This is when he died. And he parted his kingdoms into the, what's going to show you. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven, which is who? The four different rulers, generals, that was under Alexander, but Alexander departed the kingdom unto him. You got Lysimachus, you got Cassander, you got Ptolemy, and you got Seleucus. Split into the four various parts of the kingdom of Greece during that time, which is a vast empire, overcoming the Persian Empire, which is the first world superpower in history, right? So back to it. So you get the understanding these horns that represent strength or power. So these are, with Zechariah speaking of, there's four powers that's going to come and they're going to destroy Israel and scatter them and put them in captivity. Now, I also want to touch on the fact that the four is really an innumerable amount or an infinite amount. 4 is not a literal number like 3. 3 is a number of completion, but 4 is that much more. If 7 is a number of completion, 8 is that much more, an infinite amount. So when you look at 3 and you see 7 and you understand that they're numbers of completion, which I'm not going to break that down right now. That's not the time for that. But we're definitely going to go into the number 4. So let's go to the book of Proverbs. This is the book of Proverbs chapter 30, and I'm going to start at verse 15. Proverbs 30 and 15. It says, the horse leech had 2 daughters, crying, give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, yea, 4 things say not, it is enough. So the Lord showed you that 3, that's complete. But guess what? 4 is innumerable, infinite. It goes on and on, right? Continuing on. Let's actually jump down. I'm going to jump down to verse 21, right? Verse 21. And you can go on and on. I mean, honestly, if you go to 18, it's a few different other accounts, but go to 18. It says, there be 3 things which are too wonderful for me, yea, 4 which I knew not. Verse 21. For 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. 29. There be 3 things which go well, yea, 4 are comely and going. So the point is, if 3 is complete, a 4 goes above and beyond. Infinite, above and beyond. Innumerable. You understand? So that's really the point. So going back to Zechariah, now that we got this understanding. Actually, I'm going to get some more precepts because there's some more we can get on that. I don't want to just leave you with just Proverbs only. I mean, that's really enough, but we'll go on. Let's go to the book of Amos, chapter 1 and verse 9. Amos 1 and 9. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. This is the book of Amos, chapter 1 and verse 9. And it reads, thus said Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remember not the brotherly covenant. So 3 was enough, but 4 is that much more the worse. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. Revelation 7 and verse 1. And it reads, and after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, beholding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. So these are, it says 4 angels. It's not a literal, just 4 angels, 1 angel at each end of the earth, holding back the north wind, holding back the south wind, the west wind, the east wind. It's not what the Lord is talking about. The Lord is saying that there's angels all across the earth that's holding back destruction until the children of Israel, the elect of Israel, are sealed. Once they're sealed, then there's going to be destruction on the earth. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about a literal 1 angel over here. You stay over there. And then the next one go over there. And then the 3rd one, he's going north. And then the 4th one, he's going back south. That's not what the Most High is talking about here. So you get the understanding that the Lord deals with numerology on the right-hand side. He's not dealing with matrix and doing with the codes and, oh, I seen this. The Lord's not really, that's not what's going on here. Or I think people get down with gematria. The Lord's not getting down with all that. But there's a righteous decoding sometimes in the scriptures where you have the number 3 being used, where you have the number 7, where you have the number 10, the number 4, number 8, number 12, 40, 100, 1,000. These numbers are symbolic and have different meanings attached to them. All right. Even there's 7 seals. These 7 seals decode all the major prophecies in the scriptures. You understand? So let's go back to it. Let's go back to Zechariah. And I have a few more, but I think we get the point. So back to Zechariah. Now that we got the understanding thereof, we can go back in and the Spirit is going to show us what is this really talking about. This is Zechariah chapter 1 and verse 18. Then lifted I up mine eyes and saw, And behold, 4 horns. Again, this 4 is not a literal number. It's an innumerable amount. But for the sake of this breakdown, I'm going to show you something. It says 4 horns. Now, we know horns represent strength, represent power, represent a rulership. We also know that these nations, well, let's read on. It says, and I said unto the angel that talked with me, would be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So these horns right here are going to be showing you that these are going to be 4 different powers that's going to scatter Israel, scatter Jerusalem. Now, the 4 major captivities that Israel has been in is the Babylonian captivity. We've been in the Medo-Persian captivity. And remember, Zechariah is around, Slocky, I'm gonna pull it up real quick. If I'm not mistaken, this is during the Babylon. Actually, I'll tell you right here. Zechariah chapter 1 and verse 1. In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, Berechiah, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, Yahweh had been sore displeased with your fathers. So Zechariah was prophesying. I'm going to get the exact date pulled up for you, right? But this is roughly just following the Babylonian captivity and during the time of us rebuilding the temple, because Zechariah was around as a contemporary for Zerubbabel, for Joshua, right? For Nehemiah. So Zechariah, this took place just after the fall of Jerusalem in 586 BC. Right? Now, it mentioned Darius. So later on, roughly around, we can go ahead and say during the Medo-Persian captivity, this is during the time when Zechariah is able to write this. Right? So his writings can be dated back, it's in 520 to 518 BC. 520, 518 BC. So these 4 major captivities we've been in just came out of the Babylonian captivity. Now we're in the Medo-Persian captivity. You also have, what's next? You have the Greek captivity. And you also have the Roman captivity. If you want to put it as 4 actual captivities, this would be the 4 it's speaking of. But we know on a deeper level, this is talking about all the captivities that scattered us and broken us down. Because again, 4 been a number of infinite amount. So these are the foundation of our oppression and our captivities. Continuing on. Verse number 20. And Yahweh showed me 4 carpenters. Now, a carpenter are craftsmen. You know, Yahweh Shai being a carpenter, you may be a carpenter. You may actually, we're spiritual carpenters. You know, we literally go out, we building up the temple. We're building up the walls of Jerusalem. We're laying out the brick. We're laying out the brick, and we're building up the walls, and we're spiritually getting this thing back right and back together. But a physical carpenter, you know, that's what they're building. Another word for a carpenter is a builder. All right. So these carpenters that it's talking about, remember, 4 is not a literal number. Meaning it's not talking about a literal just 4. Just 4 men, 4 carpenters, they're going to go out and go build up the whole Jerusalem back again. No, this is an infinite amount of men, soldiers of Yahweh Bashim El Shai, that's rebuilding Jerusalem, that's rebuilding Israel. So these carpenters are spiritual craftsmen to cut down these nations that scattered us. It's going to show you that. Verse 20, and Yahweh showed me 4 carpenters. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are come to fray them. And afraid something is to make something afraid. Like, or even tear apart. Right? If you look up the word fray, I'm gonna look it up real quick. All right. So this fray means, it says to stain, chafe. It says to wear away the edges of fabric by rubbing, to become worn away or tattered along the edges. right? So you breaking something down. Another word for fray, it says a fight, because those things I read previously were verbs, but this is the noun. It says a fight, a brawl, a heated dispute, or intensively competitive situation, a military engagement, a battle. Aren't we at battle every time we go out on the highways and byways? Isn't us teaching the people? Aren't we going to battle against the demons? Sometimes we going to battle against the heathen. It's a battle out there. Which side is going to submit first? Hey, the side of Yahweh Shem Yahshai is not going to submit. So let's continue on. It says a frayed or threadbare spot as on a fabric, to frighten, to alarm, to drive away. So these 4 carpenters are sent to be in a military engagement, a battle, to make the horns afraid and scatter them away. As they scattered us, the 4 horns or 4 carpenters had to scatter away the damn horns, those as places in captivity. So back to Zechariah chapter 1 and verse 21. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did come, it's like no man did lift up his head. But these are come to fray them, to drive them away, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. So let's get some precepts on that. We understand, really, these carpenters are the elect men of Israel, sent on the highways and byways to build up Yasha'Allah, to cast down the strongholds, to teach the people, to liberate us out of this wicked-ass society that we're living in, known as United States or United Slaves of America. All right? So they're sent to break in pieces these doctrines in these different nations and build up Israel. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 11. And these nations know that. That's why it's going to come a time where they're going to have to stop this. They're going to have to shut down the YouTube channel. They're going to take us from off the highways and byways. They're going to have to grab up any man proclaiming himself to be a Hebrew Israelite, his God's given nationality, and they want to try to stop it. And that's written. And they did it in times past. They're going to try to do it again. This is Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 11. I saw that 10. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. So these horns, right? Back to that word horn again. These horns, these rulers, these kingdoms, they're rejoicing over us. They were rejoicing over us when we didn't know who we were, right? Because these 2 prophets, which, you know, just to leave it here, are going into the prophets of the nation of Israel. We'll just leave it at that. Let's go a little deeper. Of course, it goes into both Zerubbabel and Joshua. When you go back to the book of Zechariah, the 4th chapter, this also goes into the prophet Elijah and the prophet Moses, because he was a prophet as well. Of course, it can go into those as of the northern kingdom and southern kingdom that prophesy on the highways and byways to this day. So continuing on, verse 11. And after 3 days and a half, and we're living in that 3 days and a half. Those 3 days and a half is the covenant that you read about in Daniel, the 9th chapter, where chiefly the spiritual demon Satan has made a covenant with the children of Israel to allow us to be built up, for allow us to start waking up in the first 3.5 days. In the midst of that week, we're going to be shut off or cut off from knowing who we, or not knowing who we are, but from going out and teaching the people. That's going to be known as Jacob's trouble. That's the midst of the week. The end of that week until the last day of that week, which is the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, which is when Yahweh Shah returns, is the time period we're going to be in, where it's going to be Jacob's trouble. We're going to be catching hell and going through it and living as pilgrims on the earth. So the first 3.5 days, that's us waking up to who we are. The word being brought out in 1968, us waking up and galvanizing the people in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. You know, the internet age, all the way to 2010s and to this day, 2023. Where we at, where with a click of a button, you can get a breakdown that's never been taught before in the Christian church. So continuing on. It says, and after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh entered into them, And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And we see in that. That's what afraid means. It means to alarm, to frighten. So these carpenters are waking up and are frightening the other nations. Us teaching what they say is terroristic views. What we're teaching a masculine, which is against this feminist society right now, where a woman is in charge and you can be who you want to be, and there's gender fluidity and all this madness that's against the scriptures. We're extremists. We're far right. All these different terms and things, all because we're waking up. So one thing you would do to get people to get back on your side, you'll make a straw man's argument, or you'll try to attack the other side and throw these different terms and things at them because they're afraid. Because they know what's going to happen once you wake up. Once you wake up, this whole place is over with. Everything is done. The light's going to shut out. This whole kingdom and society is finished. The dollar's going to crumble. Everything that we've been taught, all of the wicked lies, it's all been exposed, man. Them saying that we went on the damn moon. We went on the moon in 1960s. Why the hell we never been back to the moon? They went on the moon. They did a phone call down to the U.S. president from the damn moon, right? Well, why when we in certain areas, our damn phone reception drops? Got no signal, say no service. It says SOS. But they was up on the moon back in the 1960s with a telephone calling down to the United States, supposedly. Come on now. That's been proven to be a lie. Lord willing, I make that video. That's out there. They got the saying that you can go to other planets and outer space. That's a lie. There's a firmament. You can't leave. There's something known as Operation Fishbowl, where they've been sending nuclear missiles since the 60s and aiming it at the firmament to try to crack the firmament so they can see what's out there. Saying that we're not God's chosen people, that we're black, we're niggas. They try to hide all that history and information. We went through something known as iconoclasm, where they whitewashed all the images that we have or had. But that's been proven to be, that's out there too. You got books known as Russian Icons, and you got the Negro Question Part 4 by Lee Cummins. That's on Amazon for about $10. That'll show you that King James is so-called black man. That'll show you that they knew who they were. They were known as the Jacobites, ruling all throughout Scotland, ruling all throughout France, ruling all throughout Ireland, ruling all throughout Europe. We had a whole time period known as the Dark Ages. A whole time period. Just whitewashed, just gone. Where we ruled from 476 AD, the time of the Western Roman Empire falling, all the way up to the early 1600s, around 1634 to be exact, when you have men known as the Jacobites, King James and his lineage, that were carried over to East New Jersey, and brought over here as slaves. That's documented history. Go and look this up. It goes on and on. The war on drugs in the 80s by Ronald Reagan and his woman. It's really a war on so-called black people and so-called Hispanic people to prevent us from waking up and rising up. You have in the 60s something known as COINTELPRO, where literally you got J. Edgar Hoover, right? The leader of the FBI, who has said we want to stop the rise of a so-called black messiah. And any of their organizations, we want to infiltrate them. We want to send agents at them. We want to pay them off, and we want to get them to sell out so they can deliver up their whole organization. So that there is no leader that can galvanize the people. They got Martin Luther King. They got Malcolm X. They got Huey P. Newton. They got Marcus Garvey. They got any man or leader who has risen up against the society. So what do you think they're going to try to do next? Again, they're frightened. Again, they're afraid. Again, they want to stop us. Again, they want to shut us down. Again, they want to try to overthrow us. Again, they want to stop this word. Again, they want to stop Yahweh. Again, they want to stop Yahweh Shai. But it won't happen because the Lord already wrote it. It's already written. There ain't nothing you can do to stop this thing. Let me go to this in the book of Acts. This is the book of Acts, chapter 5, and I'm going to get verse 38. It says, and now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. Right? That's what's happening right now. The Lord is allowing or stirring up the minds of these other nations to refrain from us. Right now is the time for our people to wake up. Right now is the time for boots to be on the ground. Right now is the time for camps to rise up. Right now is the time for the elect men to wake back up. It says, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. Right? Like the Black Panther Party. That's gone. Why was that gone? Because it was of men. That wasn't divinely inspired by Yahweh Shem Shai. That was inspired by men. Men came together. They wanted to, incorporate heathen. And I mean, they just doing a whole bunch of things. The Lord never said take up the guns. As a matter of fact, it's the complete opposite. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's what Yahweh Shai told Peter after he lifted up his sword and smoked the ear off of the Pharisee. All right, if I'm not mistaken. No, Roman, Salakia. Smoked the ear off the Roman when they came through, them soldiers. So those men, they got jammed up because they wasn't serving Yahweh Shem Shai. It wasn't for that. It was a way to galvanize the people, but not in a righteous manner. It was on the left-hand side. The Lord said, if it's of men, it's going to come to naught. But what? But if it be of Yahweh, ye cannot overthrow it, lest happily ye be found even to fight against Yahweh. And that's what's going to come to pass. They're going to try to fight against the Most High himself. They're doing it right now. They're going to literally try to fight against Yahweh Shai when he cracks the heavens and comes down on his chariot with the innumerable amounts of angels. They're going to stop fighting in World War III, and there's going to be something known as the Battle of Armageddon, written in the book of Revelation, the 19th chapter, where they're going to turn and fight against the Lord Yahweh Shai and get utterly overthrown and destroyed. But again, us, these carpenters that's out here in the highways and byways, we're scaring these men. They don't want to hear us teach this word no more. Hey, the time is coming, and now is when all hell is about to break loose on the earth. This is the book of Job, chapter 15 and verse 21. It says, a dreadful sound is in his ears. In prosperity, the destroyer shall come upon him. So they're in their prosperity right now. They got billions of dollars, zillions of dollars, so on and so forth. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, men behind closed doors that you never see, doing freak acts on different islands, doing whatever they want. Wake up and say, give me that little boy. Wake up and say, give me that little girl. Wake up and say, I want this, I want that. These wicked ass Edomites that's ruling this earth right now. And the Lord said, in their posterity, the destroyer shall come upon them. Meaning what? Meaning Yahweh Shai is going to come and overthrow them. And that's happening right now. You're seeing that right now. But you're going to literally see it when Yahweh Shai actually cracks the sky and comes down and destroys America. When you read that in the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter, where he's going to come through to Egypt and lay this burden upon Egypt when he's going to destroy him. All right. When you read the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, where Yahweh Shai is coming down as if it was in a great mountain, coming down from the heavens and destroying all the other nations. When you read the book of Micah, the 5th chapter, where Yahweh Shai is going to overthrow them when they're trying to fight against us, when we're back in our land, in the wilderness, we out there, Yahweh Shai is giving us the law in our inward parts, we get their spiritual bodies. They're going to try to overthrow us and fight against us. Read about that in Ezekiel 38 and 39. But guess what? They're going to be overthrown. So there's no way around it. It's over with. So continuing on. Verse 22. He believeth not that he shall return out of darkness, and he is waited for of the sword. He wandereth abroad for bread, saying, where is it? He knoweth that the day of darkness is ready at his hand. Trouble and anguish shall make him afraid. They shall prevail against him as a king ready to the battle. So that's what the Most High has prepared. That's what these carpenters are sent to do. These carpenters are sent to speak this word and for it to come forth because it's the words of the Most High. That's what a prophecy means, right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 19. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19, and verse number 16. And it reads, Salakia. And it reads, in that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and it shall be and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord of hosts, which he shaketh over it. So the Lord is shaking his hand over this wicked ass Babylon. And we're teaching each and every time we teach, hey, we shaking the hand in the spirit of our Father. Now, the Lord said they're going to be afraid, like women, turning backwards. There's another precept. I want this in Jeremiah. Jeremiah mentioned that too. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51. And I want to get, hold on, bear with me 1 second. Let me get this real quick. Oh, Jeremiah 50. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse 43. It says, the king of Babylon had heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the dwelling, from the swelling of Jordan into the habitation of the strong. But I will make them suddenly run away from her. Hold on, bear with me. Yeah, I think I missed the part, right? I'm going to read that again, verse 43. It says, the king of Babylon had heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. So that's how they're going to be. They're going to be turned back like women. The Lord is very specific. He doesn't, the things that he has proposed against this place is going to confound them. Us waking up is confounding them. There's another verse I wanted, but guess we'll rest right there with that. Lord willing, it comes back to me. But and they're gonna be turned back like women, man. And they're gonna be scared to fight. So as we see these different things happen, and these different things are coming to pass, remember the Most High said he's using these carpenters to fray away the horns. Meaning he's gonna use the servants, his elect men, to destroy the other nations. First spiritually and then physically. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 20. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. So that's what the Most High has prepared. You understand? So back to the book of Zechariah. Lord willing, it all makes sense now. Lord willing, it all makes sense now. Zechariah chapter 1 and verse 21. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. And these are come to fray them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah, to scatter it. So with that, Most High willing, I covered everything I want to make sure that I did. With that, Lord willing, this was a very edifying video. And you took notes, you had your pen out, maybe your pencil, your highlighter, you took notes. You know, you did what you had to do. With that, Kwame Shirala, stay in the spirit in these last days. Shalom.